this murder was premeditated.
A person gets out of the car and walks inside. But minutes later, the suspect Southfield police have identified as Riley Donaldson exits the home.
Enter the front driver's seat of the Chrysler 300 and quickly speed away from the crime scene.
Police body cam video reveals what happened the next day.
Hands up, hands.
Donaldson's car was tracked to a CVS on 7 Mile and Greenfield in Detroit.
Stomach, arms out, arms out, arms out.
She was told to get out and lie on the ground. When officers asked for her name, she responded, God. And while they say Donaldson doesn't have a criminal record, mental health issues were uncovered.
We're not going to allow anyone to use mental health as escape.
Donaldson is charged with first-degree murder. If convicted, she could face life in prison without the possibility of parole.
In the quiet Detroit suburb of Southfield, Michigan, a grandmother was found shot to death inside her own home. Police say her killer wasn't a stranger. It was her own daughter. 22-year-old Riley Donaldson traveled from Ohio across state lines, allegedly entered the home of her mother, Ada Mae Simmons Jones, and ended her life. When officers arrested Riley, she reportedly told them her name was God. Welcome to True Crime 911. Before we begin, I noticed that 75% of you watching right now aren't subscribed. That means if something like this happened in your town, you might never even hear the warning signs before it's too late. Don't be the one left in the dark when the next story breaks. Hit subscribe now. And if you honestly refuse, go to the comments and tell us why you'd rather stay unprepared. And when it was over, Southfield would never forget the name Riley Donaldson. The night of October 5th, 2025 began like any other in the quiet suburb of Southfield, Michigan. On Bainbridge Drive, in the 18th block, the home of 45-year-old Ada Mae Simmons Jones stood under a low porch light, the kind of place where neighbors wave as you enter, and the only late-night noise might be a car passing on 13 Mile Road. Ada Mae wasn't simply the occupant of this suburban house. She was the backbone of the household. She lived there with her 3-year-old granddaughter, the child of her daughter. According to police, the young child was inside the house along with the 77-year-old woman at the time of the shooting. Inside, the house was meant to be a refuge, a place of stability, a family, of routine. Ada Mae had legal custody of the little girl following a custody dispute with her daughter. It was her role: grandmother, caregiver, protector. On that Friday evening, Ada was found fatally wounded. Her life ended in her own home, the very place she thought was safe. The investigation from the Southfield Police Department determined that what happened there wasn't a random act of violence. It was an act of someone she knew well. The street lights still flicker. The neighborhood still wakes in the same way. But for the family, for that home, something irreversibly changed. The door that once welcomed laughter now bears the echo of unanswered questions. At just 22 years old, Riley Donaldson from Cincinnati, Ohio, appeared to many as a young mother caught up in a painful family battle. Behind the headlines lay a relationship with her mother, Ada Mae Simmons Jones of Southfield, Michigan, that was far more complicated than most might believe. Riley's life was marked by conflict and uncertainty. The custody of her 3-year-old daughter had been awarded to her mother, Ada Mae Simmons Jones, under Michigan jurisdiction, a decision that would become a focal point of resentment. Sources indicate that in August 2025, Riley took her daughter and her mother's vehicle without authorization, an act that deepened the legal and emotional divide between them. Neighbors in Ohio described Riley as quiet but increasingly unstable, according to investigation notes. The distance between mother and daughter wasn't just geographic, it was emotional. Riley felt isolated, powerless, and betrayed, while Ada Mae believed she was protecting the child. setting the stage for escalating tension. In interviews, investigators noted that security footage tracked Riley's arrival in Southfield, Michigan on October 5, 2025, the night things changed forever. The drive from Ohio to Michigan was not just miles covered, it was a crossing of thresholds in relationships, in boundaries, in what might have been a final showdown between mother and daughter. In short, Riley was not simply a suspect in a crime. She was a daughter stripped of what she believed was hers, living in the shadow of a custody award she rejected. It's here, in that frustration, that anger, that sense of being wronged, where the ordinary became ominous. Two mothers, both believing they were saving the same child. By the time the court awarded legal custody of the 3-year-old to Ada Mae Simmons Jones, the fracture between mother and daughter had deepened beyond repair. According to court filings and police statements, Ada Mae had stepped in months earlier after multiple reports of instability surrounding Riley's ability to provide a safe environment for her child. For Ada, it wasn't about control, it was about safety. Friends say she adored her granddaughter, often seen walking her to the nearby park or attending church together on Sundays. She'd worked for decades in Southfield and had built a reputation as the kind of woman who took care of everyone else before herself. But for Riley, the court's decision felt like a betrayal, not just from the system, but from her own mother. She believed Ada had stolen her child, taken away her chance to start over. Those close to the family told investigators that Riley had grown increasingly resentful, blaming Ada for turning everyone against her. Over text messages recovered later, investigators noted Riley's frustration and erratic tone, alternating between pleading for forgiveness and threatening to take her daughter back no matter what it takes. It was the emotional tug-of-war that often happens in custody cases, but this one was spiraling into something dangerous. To the outside world, it was just another family dispute. But to Ada and Riley, it was a war, one fought under the same roof of love and obligation, but fueled by bitterness and loss. We cover stories like this because warning signs are everywhere. Family tension, custody battles, mental health ignored, and still no one pays attention until blood is spilled. If you're watching and you're still not subscribed to True Crime 911, remember this. Someday, you'll see a headline just like this in your own city, and you'll wish you'd listened sooner. Click subscribe, or drop a comment explaining why you'd rather pretend stories like this don't happen. The custody battle wasn't just a legal issue. It was a ticking time bomb counting down inside the lives of two women who loved the same little girl but couldn't see that love through the same lens. In late August 2025, what appeared to be a family quarrel quietly crossed a point of no return. In the Detroit suburb of Southfield, Michigan, police were summoned to the home of Ada Mae Simmons Jones after her daughter, Riley Donaldson, reportedly left with her 3-year-old granddaughter and the family dog. According to investigators, Riley had taken both the child and the vehicle belonging to her mother, fleeing into Ohio. In Ada's home, the 3-year-old's disappearance was more than scare. It was a betrayal. Ada contacted authorities, reported her granddaughter missing, and pressed for answers. Riley eventually returned the child and the car. The dog remained missing, and Ada declined to press charges. But this incident wasn't just a one-off act of defiance. According to the Southfield Police Department, Ada had petitioned for Riley to be hospitalized for mental health concerns. Riley underwent a mental evaluation shortly afterwards. Behind closed doors, Riley's sense of powerlessness shifted into obsession. Once the custody ruling took effect and Ada took legal custody of the child, Riley's behavior changed. Text messages revealed pleas, accusations, then threats. The vehicle theft and child transport in August were signs of a mind unraveling under pressure. Neighbors in Ohio described her as increasingly withdrawn and erratic. She spoke of retrieving what she believed had been taken from her, her daughter. The strategy wasn't only to regain custody, it was to reclaim her identity. And with that mindset, the drive for justice became a drive for revenge. In early October, the stage was set. Riley left Ohio and drove to Southfield, navigating roads that symbolized the chasm between what she'd lost and what she intended to take back. Surveillance records later placed her near Ada's home. Inside Riley's mind, the countdown had begun. The missing dog, the custody ruling, the mental health evaluation. Every element added fuel. Those warnings, those red flags were building toward a moment where everything would collapse. And by sunset, Southfield would be a crime scene. Friday, October 5, 2025, the sun began to fall behind the tree-lined streets of Southfield, Michigan. Bainbridge Drive was quiet. Kids playing outside, porch lights flickering on. Nothing unusual. But inside one of those homes, tragedy was seconds away. Just before 7 p.m., Southfield police dispatchers received a call of shots fired. When officers arrived at the 18,000 block, they found 45-year-old Ada Mae Simmons Jones lying inside her home with multiple gunshot wounds. Her purse, cell phone, and keys were still on the counter, untouched. There were no signs of forced entry, no burglary, no struggle, nothing missing except life itself. Her 3-year-old granddaughter and a 77-year-old relative were in the home at the time of the shooting. Somehow, they escaped physical harm, but what they saw or heard would never leave them. Within minutes, the street was flooded with red and blue lights. Neighbors peeked through curtains, horrified. "It's Ada," one of them whispered to officers. "She didn't deserve this." Investigators quickly pieced together what had happened. Riley Donaldson, Ada's 22-year-old daughter from Ohio, had arrived at the home unannounced. According to police, she entered through an unlocked door, confronted her mother, and within moments, opened fire. The woman Ada once cradled in her arms had just taken her life. The home that once rang with laughter now echoed with sirens, evidence markers, and whispers of disbelief. Police quickly launched a multi-state alert. Less than 3 hours later, officers in Southfield located Riley nearby, walking erratically, muttering to herself, hands smeared with residue. Witnesses described her as detached, emotionless, as if unaware of what she had done. When police approached, Riley didn't run. She raised her hands, stared at the officers, and said just 3 chilling words: "I am God." That statement would be repeated multiple times during her arrest and later during her booking, according to police reports. It was a phrase that shocked investigators, not out of arrogance, but out of madness. She was taken into custody and charged with open murder and felony firearm possession. At her arraignment, Riley appeared detached, refusing to acknowledge her mother's name when it was read aloud in court. Prosecutors described the shooting as a family tragedy fueled by custody, delusion, and control. Back in Southfield, neighbors brought flowers and candles to Ada's front yard. The little girl she'd fought so hard to protect was now in the care of relatives, a survivor of the chaos that destroyed her world. This case proves evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it's family. If you think you're immune because you live in a safe neighborhood like Southfield, think again. Subscribe to True Crime 911 right now so you never ignore the signs that someone close to you might snap. And if you still won't, head to the comments and tell us what makes you so sure it couldn't happen in your own home. As the shock of Ada Mae Simmons Jones' murder rippled through Southfield, detectives from the Southfield Police Department began piecing together the grim puzzle left behind. Inside the house, evidence technicians worked late into the night. Yellow markers lined the living room floor. Bullet casings collected one by one. Forensic teams noted that the shots appeared deliberate, not random. Each bullet had been fired at close range. There was no sign of a break-in, The front door had been unlocked, suggesting Ada had let her killer in willingly. The most crucial piece, however, was missing: the murder weapon. Investigators scoured the property, nearby dumpsters, even drains along Bainbridge Drive, but the handgun used to end Ada's life was never recovered at the scene. Southfield Police Chief Elvin Barron confirmed during a press briefing that detectives believed Riley discarded the weapon somewhere between the home and her arrest location. He told reporters this wasn't random. "We believe the suspect specifically targeted her mother, and they were still searching for the firearm." That missing weapon became a symbol of the community's unease. The idea that something so violent could happen in such a familiar place and the instrument of it all was still out there. Neighbors described Ada Mae as a pillar of kindness. She was known for hosting backyard cookouts and for never turning away anyone who needed help. The thought that her daughter, the same girl neighbors remembered riding her bike on that street, could come back years later and do something like this broke the town's sense of safety. Church leaders held vigils, city officials offered grief counseling, and local parents began locking their doors earlier than usual. For Southfield, this wasn't just another headline. It was a violation of trust in the most intimate form. What haunted residents most wasn't just that Ada was gone. It was that no one saw it coming, or worse, that maybe someone did. And as detectives worked through the night, one thought lingered among them: how do you investigate a murder when love itself was the motive? In the weeks that followed, the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office formally charged Riley Donaldson with open murder and felony firearm possession. It was the beginning of a legal storm that left even seasoned courtroom observers uneasy. During the arraignment, Riley appeared via video from the Oakland County Jail, her expression blank, her tone detached. When the judge asked if she understood the charges, she nodded slowly, muttering, "I am God." The courtroom fell silent. Family members of Ada Mae quietly wept in the back row. What came next would divide both the legal teams and the community. Was this an act of premeditated rage, or the symptom of a crumbling mind? Prosecutors argued that Riley's actions showed clear intent: the drive from Ohio, the confrontation, and the execution-style shooting. They described it as a calculated act of revenge, fueled by bitterness over the custody ruling. They said it wasn't a moment of madness, it was a decision. But the defense painted a very different picture. They cited months of erratic behavior, text messages laced with paranoia, and a prior mental health evaluation requested by Ada herself. According to court records, Ada had asked for her daughter to be hospitalized just weeks before her death. To the defense, that was proof of deteriorating mental health and perhaps the ultimate tragedy, a cry for help no one fully answered. Court documents revealed that Riley's attorneys intended to pursue an insanity defense, claiming she was in the midst of a psychotic break during the shooting. They argue she was unable to distinguish right from wrong, a delusion so consuming she truly believed she was acting with divine authority when she said, "I am God." The jury never got that far. The question of her mental fitness for trial became the centerpiece of multiple hearings. Psychiatrists were called, evaluations were ordered. Each side offered conflicting interpretations, one clinical, one emotional, but neither could bring Ada Mae back. Even the courtroom couldn't decide. Was this rage or illness? And in that space, between justice and understanding, the tragedy of Southfield lingered, leaving behind not just one broken family, but an entire community questioning how love could turn into something so unrecognizable. In the weeks after the shooting, the house on Bainbridge Drive stood dark. The police tape was gone, the flashing lights faded, but the silence left behind was deafening. Inside those walls once lived 3 generations of women. Now, 2 were gone. Ada Mae Simmons Jones, the devoted grandmother, protector, and caregiver, was buried in Detroit, surrounded by family who still couldn't bring themselves to say her name without breaking down. Riley Donaldson, the daughter she once rocked to sleep, now sat in the Oakland County Jail, awaiting a psychiatric evaluation. And the little girl at the center of it all, barely old enough to spell her name, was now an orphan, caught in the crossfire of a love that turned lethal. She'd lost both her mother and her grandmother in a single night. Neighbors say her toys still sit on the front porch, a small pink tricycle in a plastic dollhouse, untouched since that night. The same yard where Ada once taught her to play is now a memorial of wilted flowers and flickering candles. Southfield isn't used to this kind of story. Not here, not in their quiet middle-class streets. But behind every suburban door, there's a family fighting a silent war that no one sees until it's too late. Even now, months later, the questions haven't gone away. Could this have been prevented? Did the system fail both women? Ada had tried to get Riley mental help. The courts knew about the custody dispute. Police had already been called once before. The warning signs were all there, every single one of them. Yet somehow, it still ended in gunfire. Somehow, a mother's cry for help became a grandmother's last breath. It's a question that keeps haunting Southfield, and anyone who's ever had to watch a loved one fall apart while the system looks the other way. If this story doesn't chill you, it should. Ada Mae thought she was safe in her own Southfield home. Riley thought she was saving her daughter. Both were wrong, and both paid the price. Don't wait for tragedy to open your eyes. Subscribe to True Crime 911 so you never ignore the warning signs in your own life. I spend hours researching and writing these stories to make sure you hear the truth, not rumors, not headlines, the truth. And it takes a toll. But if one person watching tonight recognizes the signs of danger before it's too late, then it's worth it. So, if you still can't bring yourself to hit that button, go to the comments and tell us why. Maybe you'll realize what's really stopping you. In the end, Southfield didn't just lose a mother and a daughter. It lost a family. And all because no one saw the storm coming.